everyone, welcome back to another episode of Animation Pilgrimage. We are back today, Sean, for the last Disney package film.
Oh, thank God.
The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yes, and this one actually doesn't suck.
Yes, this is probably legitimately my favorite of the package films.
Oh, by far, yes.
I mean, I enjoy Saludos Amigos and the Three Caballeros for what they are, but this one just...
is a good movie?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like just those good classic Disney shorts, and this is just two of them, back to back, and they're just nice. They're just so nice. The Wind in the Willows is okay.
Mr. Toad is fine, but Ichabod is...
Yeah, The Legend of Sleepy
stellar.
Hollow is really good. Honestly, one of my favorite Disney shorts. It's just got so much charm to it, and it's very different in tone to a lot of Disney shorts.
Yeah. I guess if you've picked up from how we're talking about it, there are only 2 shorts in this one. It's very similar to Fun and Fancy Free. Yeah, geez, the names all run together.
Yeah.
Fun and Fancy Free, except the difference between this one and that one is there is nothing tying these together. It's just like, we're going to tell you the story of Mr. Toad. Like, zooms in on a book, flips open, and the short starts.
Right.
And then that book shuts at the end of that one, and it's like, all right, now we're going to tell you the story of Ichabod. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, as it flies over to a different book, flips it open, and we go. I mean, that's essentially all it is. I mean, there's a little bit more embellishment than that.
It's funny because how they connect the two is they're like, oh, in all of literature's fabulous characters, I don't think there's any as fabulous as Mr. Toad. And then it tells the Wind in the Willows story.
British.
Yes.
Specifically British folk heroes. Like
no, fabulous characters.
British fabulous characters.
That's what they said. And then a more North American accent, I guess, comes in. He's like, well, over here in the colonies, we've got the story of Sleepy Hollow, and then they go into that. How this was originally set up was it was supposed to be 3 shorts of fabulous characters, and one of those was supposed to be Mickey and the Beanstalk at one point. Mickey and the Beanstalk was in this one.
Well, wait, what? How? Which?
All of these package films had a lot of back and forth, and I mean...
Which movie are they going to end up in?
Right, because, I mean, as you saw when we were looking at the people who were involved with the film, Fred Moore is still credited on here, even though Fred Moore had been fired from the company, you know...
A year ago or something.
Well, more like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
Okay.
So, you know, work for these... goes back and forth and back and forth. And
jumped all over the place.
Right after Snow White was done, about a year after Snow White was finished, Walt bought the rights to do a Wind in the Willows story because someone in the animation department suggested that due to the animal characters and such that it would be a good story to be done in animation.
Okay.
Walt disagreed. Walt didn't think it would be a very good story to tell in general, but he bought the rights anyway, and Wind in the Willows got finished. And then there's not a whole lot of info on Sleepy Hollow, like the production of it and all that. So I'm guessing it just had a very routine production cycle that there's just not a lot interesting to talk about with it, and that it just kind of happened.
Just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Well, there might not be a whole lot to talk about behind the scenes. There's plenty to talk about on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
It just works.
It does, but I think
we should go in order.
Yeah, we should
and talk about Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
So
The Wind in the Willows.
Well, The Wind in the Willows, specifically the story of Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
So Mr. Toad is a rich philanthropist isn't the right word.
He's kind of a philanthropist, but that's not his main quirk.
No, his main quirk is he just gets taken over.
He's a manic.
He gets all these manic obsessions on various things, and then he'll just swap on the fly onto new things. But
he's also very destructive with his obsessions. And
he constantly loses money from destroying people's livelihoods.
Yeah, because he's so rich he doesn't care.
He does
about
not
other people's
care.
stuff. Like I said, this one's okay. So the story goes, Toad is a manic.
He's riding around on a cart.
He's got 3 friends. He's got the Water Rat, Mole, and
Badger.
McBadger. And McBadger has been put in charge of Toad's finances because Toad's way too reckless to take care of himself and would rather focus on his obsessions. But Toad Hall, Mr. Toad's home, is like the pride and joy of the animals because it's just like this.
It's the pride and joy of the community because it just gives everything just a nice gleam of well-polished
It ups the property. It
ups the property prices tenfold.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, they don't use those words, but that's what they're thinking.
It makes the whole community's property
seem better.
Seem better by being nearby and all that.
Even if the owner is a terrible, terrible creature. I would say human being, but he's not.
He's not. He's a toad. And then
his latest obsession is he sees a motor car.
Yeah, he sees a motor car, and he wants a motor car. And his friends are just like,
nope.
No, that would be a bad idea. You already cause all kinds of trouble. So they lock him into his room, and then Toad escapes, and the next day he's caught by the police
with a stolen car
vehicle. So they go to court, and the way Toad tells it, he's like, hey, I didn't actually steal this car.
Well, I didn't know it was a stolen car that was sold to me.
Right.
Because I traded it away for Toad Manor.
Which is a plot point that never really gets brought up again, is the fact that everybody should be super pissed off at him for trading away Toad Hall.
Toad Hall for just a single car.
Yeah.
Wow. But he does it, but it turns out, the way he tells it, that vehicle was stolen by the people that gave it to him, which is a bunch of weasels. Weasels?
Weasels.
Okay. I was like weasels, skinks, skunks, I don't know.
Weasels.
Weasels. Yeah. So a bunch of weasels weaseled their way out of the deal, and
but then they bring a witness into court who is the barkeep, which
Mr. Smiley
made the trade in. Yes, Mr. Smiley, and he is like, "Well, no,
you tried to sell me a stolen vehicle."
Yeah, and so Toad's thrown in jail, and then he breaks out of jail.
Breaks out of jail, and it turns out that Mr. Smiley is the leader of the Weasel group.
This is all quite a complicated plot for how short this is.
Yeah.
And
so they're like, well, crap, now we need to go to Toad Hall
and get the deed.
So that
it can prove Toad's innocence.
Prove that Toad is not a terrible, terrible human being, except he still
is. Prove his innocence. I really think this would have been better suited as a full-length feature film, just because of how complicated it is.
It's complicated enough that it needed a bit more time to flesh things out.
Right. It's like there's a lot more character development that could be done with all of the characters here. Especially Toad, who in the second to third act is supposed to be reformed, but there's never enough time given to him on screen for that reformed Toad to
exist.
And then right away at the end of the short, it's like, oh, now
he's obsessed with planes.
Yeah, he's just back to his old ways, and it just doesn't feel good.
No.
Because you're just like, oh man, Toad.
You're just an asshole.
You've been shitty this entire time. You're the whole reason everybody's gone through this mess. And now you're just gonna keep... Yeah, now you're just gonna keep being awful.
Honestly, it's like, you didn't change. Just proving that you continue to be a terrible friend, putting your friends in a bad position of trying to defend you all the time.
Right.
Don't be this friend.
You know.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, it makes me feel bad for all the other characters in this. Because it's like...
They have to just put up with him all the time.
Yeah, it's like I like Rat, and I like Mole, and I like McBadger. And I even like Cyril, alright.
Yeah.
Even if Cyril is definitely a...
Enabler.
Enabler to Mr. Toad.
He is such an enabler.
And I do like Toad as well. He's got great animation, some fun personality quirks, even though they're quirks that make him an asshole. But it's like, had this been given more time to flesh him out, you could have even ended on the same note, and it wouldn't feel as bad.
Yeah, because all the characters are very charming. They're very charming, but Toad is still an asshole no matter how you look at it.
Other things I like about this short film, though, is the proportions between... Because this isn't just an animal world. It's an animal world with humans. And so I like the proportions of the animals being semi-kept.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Toad is not the size of a toad, but he is significantly smaller than all the human characters.
And it's very much the animals living in a human-dominated world. And they, like, the animals even build things to human proportions a lot of times, even though they
themselves are much smaller.
Right.
It's like, I think the largest one is McBadger, and he's like half the size of a human, at best.
Yeah. I mean, I think his proportions change slightly. His character model doesn't stay on...
I mean, it's consistent in its own design, but size-wise, the animals, I think, kind of fluctuate between how big they are compared to the humans, which, for the most part, is not that bad because the humans really aren't on screen that much. And I think the animals all stay consistent compared to each other very well.
Yeah. But generally, this is the nice balance I like from Disney, where it's beautiful imagery, beautiful artwork, beautiful backgrounds, and efficient and effective storytelling.
And on top of all of it, fantastic animation.
Yes. Except, I wanted to ask you this.
Okay.
Because this is something that's always bothered me about this short, but I've never really heard anybody else say anything about this. I always felt like the lip syncing for the first half of this short feels really weird. Either it's the lip syncing itself or it's the voices that go with the characters just don't jive at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I think one of the problems is the audio quality itself is not terribly great when the thing starts. And so when, like, Mr. Toad and Cyril the horse are singing their song, that does feel off.
See, I don't have problems with Toad and Cyril.
Really?
It's mostly the characters that I find the worst problems in. And this goes through, like, the entire film, not just the first part. But Rat, Mole, and McBadger all feel like what's being said and what they're doing on screen do not match up. And I think another reason for that is I just don't feel like there's enough character animation here. It feels like there's a lot of personality given in the performance, but the animation is not
emulating that?
Emulating that performance.
Okay.
Like, I feel like the animation is more subdued than the acting.
Okay. That's very possible.
Which leads to me feeling like the lip syncing is also not right.
Okay. I guess I didn't notice that at all. Mm-hmm. I felt it was all fine. I would have preferred if we had more time with Water Rat, Mole, and McBadger, because we honestly don't get very much time with any of these characters by themselves or not. And I feel like a lot of your issues might have been fixed if we had just spent more time with them, because they seriously get like 3 lines each.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, it is really bad how underutilized they are in this short. And we spend all the time with, I don't know, everyone. There's just a lot of...
There's a lot of characters in this for how short it is.
Yeah, which, again, like we were saying, is probably why it would have been better if this whole thing had just been fleshed out a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess let me know if you guys ever noticed that with this short, because it's always bothered me.
Yeah, and I've never noticed it.
Mm-hmm. So I guess moving on to Sleepy Hollow then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The story of Ichabod Crane.
Yeah. Ichabod Crane. I love this short.
It's great.
I love it so much.
It's fantastic. It's exquisite.
I love the art direction. I love the story. I love Disney's take on this story.
Mm-hmm. So, if you're unaware, this is the story of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman. I will let you know right now, I know this short very well. Mm-hmm. I have watched it multiple times. I've written papers on it, yada, yada, yada. But this is probably the best interpretation we're ever going to get of
Sleepy Hollow.
And
it comes from Disney.
Years ago.
Yeah, Disney can sometimes do rather faithful adaptations. Yeah. It just doesn't happen often.
Yeah, it's crazy that we have the terrible Tim Burton one that is like nothing like the original source material.
Right.
And I know there was like a show that I never watched called Sleepy Hollow, but
yeah, I never watched it either.
This short does such a fantastic job covering the story, which I keep not telling you what it is. Mm-hmm. There's a new school teacher in town, and he's kind of like
weird.
He's really weird, like tall, knobbly, and in with the arts and stuff.
He's the sensitive type.
But artsy type.
But also a complete asshole.
Oh, he is a complete asshole because he is just as womanizing as anyone else, and
if even more so.
Oh yeah, he preys upon women.
Yeah.
Like,
uses children to get close to the women in town because he's a school teacher.
He's a school teacher. He can use his influences, and he loves food. Mm-hmm. So any kid that has a mom that can cook, he's good in his books. Mm-hmm. And he also does things like teach singing lessons to the women in town and stuff, just so he can get closer to them. And like, he is in it for the money because he has no money whatsoever. So he comes across the richest girl in town,
Katrina,
and her daddy, who is a rich farmer.
Yeah, like the biggest farm.
Which is kind of baffling to me because
farmers
rich
nowadays.
Farmers doesn't work in today's standards more often than not.
Well, different times.
Yeah, different times. So, rich farmer in these times. And he's like, well, if I get with Katrina, then after Daddy gets...
Because she's an only child.
She's the heiress to the whole fortune. So if I get in with her, I get all the money.
Don't feel too bad for Katrina, though, because Katrina is also...
We'll get to Katrina in just a little bit. So there's also Brom Bones, and he is the strongest, rootinest, tootinest...
He's Gaston.
Essentially, he's
but not
big,
as overtly evil.
Yeah, he is big, burly, loves to play pranks on people. He's your dude jock bro, and he can beat the crap out of anyone else. So obviously he's the best suitor for Katrina, because he's actually going to be able to work on the farm.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I mean, I doubt Katrina's dad was working on the farm all that much.
That's true. He probably had quite a few hired hands and stuff like that. But anyways, he's like, Katrina's the most beautiful girl in town. I am the most handsome and best man in town. We're destined for each other. He's Gaston.
Yeah.
So he's an asshole to everyone else because he's like, I'm the best.
He especially doesn't like Ichabod because Ichabod's just like the exact opposite of him.
Yeah,
and Ichabod doesn't like him because he's the exact opposite of him.
And he also particularly doesn't care for Ichabod because Ichabod is the only one that will stand up to him in his chasing of Katrina.
Yeah, because Bronze chased off all the other guys.
Yeah, so now we get to Katrina. And Katrina is not just a damsel to be won in the end.
No, she's not
plays these guys off of each other constantly.
She loves seeing them feud. And honestly...
So she'll just egg one on just a little bit to get them to go at each other's throats again.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And...
they're all horrible.
They're all terrible, terrible human beings. And it works so well in this short.
I love the adult humor of this one because it's like if you're a kid watching this one, you don't necessarily you see the love triangle, but you don't really see it for what it is.
Yeah,
even though the short's very explicit about what it is.
Oh yeah, because Ichabod does not care about Katrina.
No.
Not even really a little bit. I mean, he cares on oh yeah, she's hot.
Yeah.
But also farm and money.
Right.
If anything,
and Bron's pretty much the same.
It's probably the same, but I would say he probably legitimately cares about Katrina a bit more
than Ichabod. That's not a high bar.
Like I said, just a little bit more. And this is never brought up in the actual movie, but in the original source material, the story, it is I think it's implied a little more heavily that Katrina was always planning on getting hitched with Brom.
But she just loves seeing him.
Yeah, but that never comes up in this short.
Right. And I get that feeling from this short, even though it isn't brought up. It's just the idea that she just loves fucking with him.
Ha! Yeah, I would never end up with you, Ichabod. Because in the original version, that's the reason Ichabod leaves the party in a hurry. And it's not really explained why. They just imply that something happened and now he's leaving before everyone else. And you're supposed to imply from that is Katrina probably just straight up said, yeah, I'm not going to end up with you.
Yeah, this isn't going to happen.
But anyways, there's this big party and Katrina's egging them on to go at each other's throat. And there's this fantastic dance sequence. And the animation here is gorgeous.
And funny.
So fun. I love it. And they're just going at each other, and ultimately Ichabod wins the dance contest.
I love the chubby girl. She's honestly really cute.
Oh yeah, she is.
But the way that she's just like
the double time dancing with her.
Yeah, and I even love when
Brom just picks her up
and she's still just dancing away in his arms.
It's great.
It's really funny. It's really cute.
Well, unfortunately for Ichabod, he has one weakness. He is superstitious AF.
Yeah,
And they actually show this off earlier in the short without saying it.
Yeah, they set it up multiple times where
he doesn't walk under a ladder because that's superstitiously bad. There's a black cat. He turns the cat around so it doesn't cross his path. He does all of these different things, and he knocks over salt, so he throws the salt over his shoulder. Bad luck, blah, 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 blah. Superstition. And Brombone's like, I can work with this.
Well, he even at one point picks up a horseshoe off the ground.
Oh yeah, he's like, horseshoe, good luck.
Good luck, yeah.
So Brom Bones is like, I can work with how superstitious he is. So he tells the tale of the Headless Horseman. Mm-hmm. And, like, he rides around the woods around these parts on Halloween night. And
by the way, there's songs in this short, and I really like all the songs in this one, too.
Yeah, the story, like the one where they're talking about Ichabod himself, and then there's, like...
the song about Katrina.
The song about Katrina, and then the song here about the Headless Horseman. Mm-hmm. All three are great.
Yeah, they don't wear out their welcome, and they keep things moving along at a good pace.
Yes. So he tells the story of the Headless Horseman. Is like, well, if you're riding home, beware, because the Headless Horseman might get you. Mm-hmm. Because you can't argue, or you can't reason with a headless man.
You can't reason with a headless man.
It's like the catchphrase of the song.
Yeah.
And he also says, if you're getting chased, head for the bridge, because you can't. He's a spook and he can't cross running water.
Yeah, it's like his magic is done when you get to the bridge.
Yeah, so if you cross the bridge, you're fine. Mm-hmm. So lo and behold, Ichabod leaves.
The setup and the tension for all of this is great.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole song is build up for the next sequence. Mm-hmm. And then this next sequence where Ichabod's leaving the party and going home, and he's heading through the hollow.
Going through the woods, and like just constant building tension of,
oh yeah,
like, is there something there? And like animals saying, Ichabod, Ichabod,
yeah.
beware,
yeah,
and stuff like that, and just keeps building and building and building, and then he thinks he hears a horse beating, and it's actually just some reeds bouncing in the wind, and he just grabs him and starts laughing, and he's laughing with the horse, and it's all good because it was all in his head, and then someone's laughing with him.
Yeah.
And it's the Headless Horseman! And then we have a crazy chase sequence.
Oh, and some beautiful lighting effects.
Oh, yes. Like, the Headless Horseman looks so good.
It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. I honestly had forgotten how good this short is. Mm-hmm. It's like, I honestly would think this is a good short to watch at Halloween every year.
Oh, yeah. It's like this is a Halloween classic.
Mm-hmm. So there's a fun chase scene, and like there's fun antics. Nothing stays its welcome. They keep things moving along, and eventually he gets over the bridge, and the Headless Horseman stops and throws his hat at him, and it explodes.
And Ichabod was never seen again.
Ichabod's hat was found next to a smashed pumpkin, and Ichabod was never seen again.
Although it is rumored.
It is rumored that he is living a few counties over, and with a big found a wealthy widow, and is, rolling in the dough over there. But the people of Sleepy Hollow know that's not to be true, because they know the Headless Horseman got him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And Brom Bones and Katrina end up together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing that's implied that isn't brought up here, like one of the final lines of the story is whenever Ichabod is brought up, even years later, Brom Bones always chuckles. Like, always laughs. Like, implying that maybe
he was the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, implying that he was probably the Headless Horseman that chased off Ichabod.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they definitely imply that in the short as well, just with the fact that Brom is the one who made up the story and
stuff
tells
like that.
it. And I mean, he's seen earlier on in the short with a black horse.
Yes. So, this whole short is amazing. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah. It's so
It's refreshing.
Good. The animation is so nice. It's not like their feature-length animation nice, but like they've got beautiful character designs.
They're getting back into the swing of the things by now. Mm-hmm. It's like you can tell through all of these all of the package films, it's like you can tell that it just went down and their quality just kept going down, and then they slowly started getting back up, and this is the stepping point right before their next film. And you can tell that they're getting back into it.
It's just so much flip-flopping between, fun, cartoony character animation and jokes and that kind of stuff to art. And only art. And it's just like, I like the art, but can we have both?
Can we put these back together? Because that's what Disney is known for.
Yeah, it's like, I like both of these things, but why not both? Why not both?
Why not put them together instead of short of one, then short of another, and then flip-flop them back and forth until you're bored of all of it? Mm-hmm. So...
At least this whole package film era does end on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
They do pretty much consistently get better, with Fun and Fancy Free being the only, like, real dip.
Stinker in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, as I was saying, it looks like all of these shorts get better, and I mean, I'm not great at knowing what order all these early Disney movies come out, but I do know for a fact which one is coming next, and yeah, they definitely set up to doing a good one.
In the next time. Yeah.
And I mean, we're not going to be watching that one for a few films now.
Well, and I will say, another thing that's probably the reason for the huge variety and quality is that, I mean, the studio is definitely not doing well. All throughout this decade, you know, Disney's had to deal with
flops.
Movie flops, but also the war, the strike.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Walt himself is not
involved
in these projects that much anymore, and his involvement becomes less and less and less. Even this next film, Cinderella, which he loves a lot, he didn't end up working very much on at all.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so all of this is like the growing pains in a very stressful situation for a lot of these animators and story people who are now doing this by themselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, you can tell, but they're definitely coming into their own. Mm-hmm. It's taken them like 9 years.
Yeah.
But it's gonna pay off.
9 years and a lot of stressful layoffs and...
Yeah. But hey.
But they get there.
They get there. And this one was good. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. If you've not seen these two shorts, you really should.
Yeah.
Especially Sleepy Hollow.
Yes. Most definitely. It's like, Mr. Toad is perfectly fine, but Ichabod is...
Sleepy Hollow puts that to shame.
Yeah, it's just like, it's night and day between those two.
Yeah.
And it's like, the first one's not even bad, but the second one's just that much better than it.
And part of the reason for that is just because, like, the characters are so remarkably awful and likable.
Yeah.
At the same time. It's such a weird combination for Disney. They don't do that very often. So it's a joy to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's a joy to watch 3 terrible human beings all egg each other on constantly.
Yeah. In such charming ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so good. Okay.
Obviously, can't recommend it enough. So, next time, we are still going to be in 1949. We aren't quite moving on to the 50s yet.
Okay.
So, the next film on our list is The Little Princess, which is an Italian film.
Oh, and we haven't hit Italy yet, have we?
Nope.
Cool. All right, well, I guess we'll meet you back here for... Okay. Sorry, I was about to do some terrible Italian accent, and I was like, no, that's racist. I'll just not do that. So, we'll meet us back here for Italy.
When the spooks have a midnight jamboree, they break it up with fiendish glee. Ghosts are bad, but the one that's cursed is the Headless Horseman. He's the worst.